Hello, hello, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity. I'm your host, Pascal Cook Fernandez. How has your week been? How are you this evening or whenever you're tuning in? There's so much chaos in the world right now. And here in the US, it's an election year. So emotions are most often running hot. People have big opinions about major topics, and it can sometimes feel impossible to relate to other people, especially if their opinions differ from your own. I mean, obviously, you're right, right? Maybe, maybe not. Let me explain. All of our opinions are just that, opinions. Every single one of those opinions are formed based on lived experience. So they're based on our own perspective. In its most simple form, our opinions are based on the lens we use to view the world. And instead of that lens being made at your local eye doctor's office, it's carefully crafted using each and every experience that you've had in your own life, each person you've interacted with, and every bit of information you input into your internal computer, your brain. Remember to take into account each of your senses as a pathway for data collection. Your sense of sight, touch, smell, feel, and hearing. That's a lot of information that continually hones your hopefully carefully crafted lens. With all of that in mind, you can see why each of us might have very differing opinions on hot button topics. And in thinking about all of this, my hope is that we can start to approach one another with curiosity, that we might try to understand why the other person has the perspective they have, that we might all be a little more open minded, leaving space for perspectives that aren't the same as our own. There's nothing in this world that is black or white. In between those two colors is a whole rainbow of different colors and shades, and that's okay. It's actually more than okay. It's beautiful. After all, what kind of world would it be if everything was just black or white? It would feel pretty dull to me, and I think you'd probably feel the same way. So have your opinions that are based on your own perspective, but remember to leave space for all the colors and shades. After all, who can be angry or hateful when you're surrounded by pink? Hey there, clarity seekers. Pascal here. Are you a podcaster, content creator, entrepreneur, or just someone who loves sharing your voice with the world? Well, I've got something exciting to share with you. I know how important it is to have high quality audio and video for your podcasts, webinars, and even your social media content. That's why I use Riverside.fm, the best tool for recording and editing professional grade podcasts and videos right from the comfort of your own home or office. With Riverside.fm, you get crystal clear audio and video quality, easy editing tools, and the ability to pull amazing video clips for your social media. Plus, it's all in one place, which means no more juggling multiple apps or struggling with complicated setups. It's streamlined, simple, and perfect for the busy entrepreneur like us. And here's the best part. As a listener of Women Finding Clarity podcast, you can head over to riverside.fm using the link in show notes. Trust me, this is a game changer if you are looking to elevate your content and reach a wider audience. Visit Riverside using the link in show notes and start creating content that truly shines. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one recording, one conversation at a time. My guest this evening is Amanda Greaves. Amanda is a dynamic and entertaining author, speaker, and coach. After running her award winning interior design firm for over 13 years, She embraced the power of change that she now speaks about and pivoted her career away from furniture and fixtures toward more meaningful connections. Amanda's mission is to guide women and men past their own limiting beliefs and feelings of being stuck, unworthy, and not enough through inspirational presentations and empowerment coaching for groups and individuals. So, without further ado, please welcome my dynamic guest, Amanda Greaves. Amanda, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Hi, Pascal. It is so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm really happy you're here. We met several months ago, and so it's really nice to see your face again. Really nice to feel your energy again because I probably said it when we met, but your energy is just
Uh,
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Takes a lot of work sometimes, but then, you get into your groove and it's like, all right, I think I'm in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
When I think about you, the energy that I think of, like that is surrounding you, is every color of the aura,
Okay.
right? Every color that you can have in your aura. And it's very reminiscent to me. It reminds me of your book. And so that's where we're going to start right now. If you can just kind of introduce your book to
Yeah.
listeners because it's
This
wicked
one.
cool.
So I published my first book in February of 2024, and it is called The Chameleon Diaries Designing a Life Worth Changing For. And it is a memoir and guide to self discovery. And the chameleon on the front is really that colorful aspect that you were just referring to. And the secondary title of Designing a Life Worth Changing For is a full play on words. I've been an interior designer for 20 years, so that's where the designing aspect comes into play. And then a life worth changing for. And it's all about being a chameleon and making the necessary adjustments along the way to really find who you are at your core, get clear on what's going on in your life, and be able to really love the life that you're in.
That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great night.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Perfect. Bye. That was just such a beautiful synopsis of all of it. And I still want to dig in deeper because why not? That's what
I
we're
love
here for.
digging
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. So I know that you are a coach as well. And so it's the chicken or the egg. What came first, the book or the coaching?
The coaching has been happening for me probably for about 12 years in the sense that I have been working with coaches as the receiving end. And I started the opportunity to be able to serve and to give 2 or 3 years ago. I've been mentoring other designers for probably 10 or 15 years anyway, but the actual coaching aspect came a couple years ago, and I started writing the book at the beginning of 2023 and just 23? No, I don't remember. It was last year. And raced through it. And so the book happened simultaneously while I was doing some transition, if you will, within my design career. So the coaching has always been there, book came second.
I
But I
feel
am using it as a tool within the coaching aspect that I am now presenting.
because why wouldn't you? Right. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's what you do. That's what you talk about. So why wouldn't you do that? And I was just going to say, what was I going to say?
How cool it is that I'm able to fold them into each other.
That's exactly what I was going to say. No, I have these brain blips sometimes where I've got this thought, and if I don't get it out immediately, poof, it's gone.
Okay.
It'll come back.
All right.
All right. So you said that you like basically you started it and then you were just going and you wrote the book.
Mhm.
So what was your life like during that time?
Well, I'm going to give you the premise as to why I even started writing it in the first place, and I'll go
Perfect.
quick. I've been a designer, as I mentioned, for 20 years, and I've had my own firm for 14. I would say that during COVID, with all the upheaval in different industries and workforce and supply chains and a lot of things, client expectations, things changed a lot. And in my professional and personal opinion, they didn't necessarily change for the better. They've all worked themselves out. And I found myself working with a very challenging developer client who, in the end, we ended up parting ways, but it was a big severing of 50% of my projected revenue for 2023. 50%.
Yeah.
And
That's not a little number.
no, it's not a little number. Simultaneously, I was extricating myself out of a emotionally abusive relationship with a covert narcissist. And
Mm,
so all of that came to a head right before Christmas in 2022. And that's when I basically just said, forget this. Not necessarily that. I'm trying to be nice.
yep.
This is PG. I said, forget this. I'm out. I don't want to do this type. I don't want to feel this way anymore because my nervous system was just, it was like this all the time, constantly connected and just tight. And thankfully, I have a really great design team. And I stepped back. My focus had been primarily on this developer and without them involved. And then also by me being able to get out of that narcissistic relationship, I found a lot of time and space open up. And I said, that's it, I'm doing it. And I started dabbling for a few months and I really put pen to paper in May of 2023 and just cruised and was able to get it done in that, 9-10 month time frame to publish it at the end of February of this year, 24. Writing the book for me was a massive cathartic exercise that I initially just went to kind of stick it to the guy. But as I was getting through it, I thought, I don't want to give him any more power. I don't want to give him any more time. Neither one of them deserve it. And so I started digging, as you mentioned, I started digging into me and digging through the stories of my life and trying to understand, how did I actually get into those two situations in the first place? And it's not like, oh, I made a decision one morning and this is where I landed in this narcissistic relationship. No, it was as I was writing the stories and doing the work, I started to uncover the patterns. I uncovered the habits. I uncovered when certain things started. And that's how the book really started to evolve and come together.
Yeah. And that's hard work.
Yes.
I
It
mean,
was, yeah.
yeah, you say that like once I put pen to paper, I just hammered it out. But I can only imagine that in those months, there was a lot of crying, a lot of
Mhm.
swearing, there were naps, there
Mhm.
were snacks.
Yeah, I think one of my only saving graces is that I was consistent with my Pilates schedule. I was thankful that it rained all summer last year because I was inside writing. And yes, there were many drives up and down 128 because, I'd realize I might be in a certain time frame. For example, there was a time when I was writing about when I was married at a very young age of 22 to 26. And when that all fell apart, we were listening to Creed. And for some reason, there was one night where I went out to dinner with a friend of mine, and I'm like, I'm just going to push myself through this. And I drove up and down 128 for about an hour and a half. I didn't go anywhere, but I drove from Danvers to Gloucester twice and then back again, listened to the entire album at least twice and just cried and cried and cried and cried. And by the time I got home and went to bed and got up the next morning, I felt like I had finally given that part of my life, those emotions, the time that they needed in order for me to heal. And it
Mm.
sounds kind of silly, but we all do things the way that work for us. And, there were other parts where it was, hey, I think I just need to learn how to have a better communication strategy with my mom. That took some work, but we're there.
It does. It always does.
Eh,
And that's the thing is that we do figure out what works for us and we're not always able to figure it out on our own.
God, no.
But, and I don't think it sounds silly. I 100% feel that there's so much value in driving up and down 128 and listening
Yes.
to the album and crying. Like,
It
yeah,
was it was one of those things where I was very young when I got married and lived in Australia. I was living overseas, and this is definitely part of the book too, but when I left, it was very, I gotta get out of here, there was no communication. We didn't know how to honor each other in what our needs were. Our communication styles were flawed. I was young,
yeah,
and it was when I left, I decided that spending 3 weeks in Hawaii was gonna be a great vacation for me, and when I finally made it back to Massachusetts, I jumped right into another relationship, got an apartment, all the things. I never gave myself the time to grieve the loss of that portion of my life and to allow the emotions to run their course, and it's interesting because when you don't allow things to run their course at that time, they don't go away. They hang
Ever.
out and they stack, and then they start stacking, and in general, the book was like Jenga. I'd pull the piece out in the hope that the whole thing didn't tumble over, and then I was like, "I think I'll just stay at the top," and it became a Jenga game for, like, 9 months, and it fell down a lot, but I was able to put it back together, and now it's like, "Alright." It's I feel like I've worked through so many that relationship, the recent relationship that I was in with the narcissist and all the ones in between, and it really I'm on the other side of it, and it feels very refreshing.
Yeah. I always think of those times as like the ugly cry. That's my
Oh, yeah.
season of ugly cry. How much healthier and happier are you now because you gave yourself that time to have your ugly cry season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all at our most vulnerable states. We are oftentimes afraid to allow that ugly cry out through the writing, through my therapists, through working with my coaches. I realized the value that vulnerability, there's actually power in it. And for so much of my life, I looked at the aspect of being vulnerable as a weakness. And I'm a crier. Naturally, God's gift to me. I'm a Pisces. I'm an emotional basket case. Lots
I'm
of
an Aries. I'm right there with
yeah,
you.
like it's just part of who I am, and I've been stifling it. And now it's vulnerability to me is not a scary word anymore. And it actually gives me power when I know I can tap into it and I know that I'm amongst groups or individuals or own space. And I allow that vulnerability to carry me through the emotion, the situation, the fear. Because just on the other side of that, that's where the strength comes in. Running away from this stuff, that's the weakness.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable and diving in head first, that's where the strength comes to play. So I'm excited that that is one of the most powerful words that I really, really grasped in the last couple of years.
That's so beautiful. Again, I feel like, okay, our work here is done.
Yeah.
Bye. Because you're just dropping so many truth bombs and so many beautiful gems of wisdom.
It's thank you. Thank you very much
Mm.
for recognizing that. And I've gotten into this, shall we say, dialogue with myself, and a lot of it has been changing the self-talk. We all do it. You wake up in the morning, you're like, I don't feel good. Well, then your whole day might not feel good. You wake up in the morning and you're like, today's going to be great. And you know what? Most of your day might be great. And it takes time, it takes practice, it takes a dedication to turn around and say, I want to be happy. My goal is to be the best version of myself. And you know what? You can be the best version of yourself right now.
Yes.
Just need to make the choice to say, today's the day. This is it. Have fun, be productive, and be fulfilled by the end of Monday evening. And that's it.
And so it is.
So it is.
So, yes, if only, like I have my little selenite wand here. So, if
Yes.
only we could wave our magic wands, and so it is.
Is.
So, for someone who's just starting out and they're like, okay, it's time for me to chameleon my life, what would you offer as the best way to start? Or maybe really amazing tip that somebody who is not feeling courageous and is feeling super vulnerable, how do you even start?
I would say, A, go easy on yourself and give yourself some grace. Number one, because we are all doing the best we can with the tools that we have, and we can't be expected to know everything and do it all at the same time. But primarily, I'm going to pull in some of my design aspect into play. I've worked with a lot of different interior design clients over the years, and many, many times they're like, "Well, this is what I think I want." And they show us all these beautiful pictures. This is the kitchen, this is the living room, this is what they go in and then magazines and Pinterest and all those fun things. And we say, "Great, this is wonderful. We can see what you're looking for, but can you tell us what you don't want? Can you tell us what isn't working? Can you tell us the reasons behind you wanting to renovate this portion of your home, to build something new?" And when I say it outside of the interior design context, I ask my clients, can you tell me what you don't like about yourself? But then at the same time, can you also tell me what you do like? What is going really well for you? You woke up. Congratulations, you're still here. Amen to that. You
And
know,
sometimes that's enormous.
Sometimes it's enormous, but you got up, you're up, and tell me what you love about yourself. Let's start there. And that's oftentimes I will get them to start stacking and doing I am statements. I am amazing. I am beautiful, beautiful. I am creative. I am energetic. And I say, go through the alphabet. Start at A and work through Z and do an I am for every letter of the alphabet and then go to the beginning and do it again and find all the glorious things about who you are. And when you're feeling really good, it's kind of hard sometimes to go back in and be like, but I'm so tired and I'm depressed and I can't do all this. I don't have enough resources. Then make that list. What is it that you don't have? What is it that you don't like? Is it, I don't know, your hair, your diet, your exercise, your boyfriend, your husband, your job, your financial status, your kids? Like, what is going on in your life that's causing you that stress, that feeling of angst? Are you tired? Okay, well, let's look at your diet. Let's look at how you're sleeping. What's happening in your life? And it doesn't happen like that, but it's a process. What do you like? What do you not like? Let's start there. And there are times more often than not where somebody will say, they'll start with, "Well, I'm really uncomfortable in my clothes." Okay, but as you started the conversation, we start digging. What makes you feel uncomfortable in your clothes? Well, they're just a little too snug. Okay, well, what's been making them too snug? And going down through that thing. And there's this process that we use. It's like 6 or 7 layers deep. And you ask a question and they answer the question. You take their answer, you ask them the next question with it in. And once you get down to level 5 or 6, it doesn't matter what your clothes feel like. There's something on the inside that's bothering you, that's making you eat more chocolate chip cookies at the end of the night when you know you shouldn't, or having that extra glass of wine when you know you don't want it or need
Yeah.
it or whatever. And it's not that you drink too much. It's you're trying to numb something, and what is it? What
Yeah.
are we trying to cover up with all this extra stuff that's now making us feel bad? And it's those are the it doesn't always happen on the first try, but if it doesn't, it happens on the second. Because if people allow themselves to be vulnerable in a safe space, knowing that whatever is said is between them and me, or them and whoever they happen to be speaking to. We have to believe that people want the best for us. We have to believe that people are out for our best interests. And if we believe something different, then maybe we need to assess that relationship.
Absolutely. And again, one of the very first steps, you just said it, is to find someone to have that relationship with, to build that relationship, to find someone to trust, to find someone who will listen, to find someone who will help you dig down layer by layer. So for me, I've been through that process and it was emotional eating, right?
So I didn't know that about you. It's interesting that it could have been a million other things, but okay.
Yep. You didn't know that, but you
Yeah.
maybe subconsciously picked it up in the energy. Who knows? But I went through the process and it was emotional eating. And what I discovered is that I snack salty, crunchy snacks when I feel lonely.
It's amazing. Lonely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
It's like magic.
And then understanding, well, where does that loneliness come from? Then you take that, you put it at question number 1 and you dig a
Yep.
little deeper. And, it's this whole never-ending process, but
Yeah.
eventually you just have to stop somewhere and do a little work and then dig again.
Well, and how do you know when to stop, right? For me, it feels intuitive, like you just feel it. Everything that I talk about on this show, everything I talk about with my clients is go back into your body. How does it feel in your body? So, does it feel like something's still missing and you still need to dig a little deeper? Great. Keep asking the questions. Do you feel satisfied with where you are now and you're at capacity for what you can handle?
Mhm.
That feels like enough? Then
Yeah.
stop.
And it's sometimes I agree with you 100%, but there are times where fear of the unknown or fear of getting too vulnerable will make us want to stop. And on occasion, you do need that safe person to push just a little bit harder. It's, yes, it's the intuitive nature. You could get 3 questions in and know that that is enough. You could get 10 questions down and realize, okay, we've gone far enough for today. Let's see what we can drum up tomorrow. For me, like that feeling that you get in your body. Mine has sat here for years in my upper chest and in my throat, and a lot of it had to do, as I discovered when I was writing my book and working with my coaches and my therapist, I felt edited, I felt judged, I felt criticized for so much of my life. I was in relationships where I was criticized and told you don't think, or it was they were manipulative, and so I just stopped speaking up because I was being accused of things that weren't happening, so I just stopped speaking, and when you stop speaking for yourself, it doesn't go away, it get literally like the line on my shirt, which is right at my collarbone, everything would get stuck there. I would get chest colds, I would get colds in my throat, and there were times where I felt like I had an elephant sitting right on my lungs and I couldn't breathe. And, as I go back through, it's the final relationship that I was just in a couple of years ago. He wasn't the first narcissist that I dated because I had been dating them all along. Apparently, that was my type, unavailable men. But it started way back in, 7th, 8th grade. And it was like, somebody said something to me once and I was like, "Ooh." And you start swallowing your words and then you get full. And so, it's just it shows up differently in everybody's body in a different location. It could be your left arm, it could be your right leg, it could be your stomach, it could be your head, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
understanding where they come from, I think is gosh, that's one of the best steps to healing is finding that clarity within you. Why am I feeling this? And why is my chest hurt? Or why am I hungry? Or why am I getting a headache?
Yeah. Yeah. So much work to do. And as you're talking about that, for me as an energy healer, it's
Mhm.
your heart chakra and your throat chakra, right? Well, if we think about our throat chakra, we think about speaking and we think about our words. But what a lot of people don't know or maybe don't understand is your throat chakra also rules what you're hearing and being able to hear and being able to listen. And so when you kind of swallowed your words and just let it happen, please, we all have our things, right?
Yeah.
When you stopped discerning
Mhm.
what was good for you, what wasn't good for you, and you just allowed it all in, right?
Yeah. And you don't know when it's happening. It just I mean, maybe some people do. For me, I didn't know when it was happening because it was progressive. I was the wild child. I was the one that nobody knew what to do with. Oh, we don't know what to do with you. So for me, that was a negative, and I'm like, it should have been sweet. Let's try and figure it out. But it wasn't that way when I was growing up. It was just different mindsets, different generations, different thought processes, and being the wild child, even though I wasn't as wild as a lot of people that I know, it was perceived as bad. And I look at now being that wild child as the best thing that could ever happen to me because with all of the experiences that I've had in my life, they've created who I am today. I would not be the coach that I am had I not gone through those things because I wouldn't have had the tenure, the life experience. Somebody if somebody ever came to me and wanted to know information about different relationships or business things, I can talk to them intelligently because I've been through them. I don't know when I stopped talking. I don't know when I just started absorbing, but when realized it had happened, it took a couple years to unravel those things. And it's
Oh,
still
yeah.
unraveling,
Yeah.
but I'm realizing that I'm now proactive in my own life's participation. I'm proactive speaking up for myself and agreeing or disagreeing as I see fit, as my gut tells me, hey, Amanda, that's not right. All right, well, I'm listening now. I can hear you. Let's see what we need to do about it.
I
It's,
love it.
yeah, it's fun. I
I
think
love
it's
it.
fun.
So let's talk about, I know we're kind of bouncing back and forth between coaching and your book, but all of these beautiful gems, like I said, that we're talking about that you're dropping for everyone, how do we take your book and
Mhm.
apply it to ourselves?
So that's a great question. And the way I wrote the book, which was it evolved over time, I certainly didn't set out to write the book in this capacity, but I'm pretty excited that it ended up in the fashion that it has. I wrote this book for everybody listening. I wrote it for you. I wrote it for me for sure, but I wrote it for anybody out there that has ever felt like they're not enough, has ever been told that they're too much, doesn't know if they shoulda, coulda, woulda fit in over here if they had done something a little bit different, or if they shoulda, coulda, woulda stood out if they had done something a little bit different. And like, where's that dichotomy of where we fit? So within the book, each chapter is a story of my life because it is a memoir, but it's also a guide to self discovery. And at the end of each chapter, I will highlight the lesson that I learned as I looked back on that particular situation of my life. And then I'll ask 3 Dear Diary questions. And it takes the reader. You have few different ways of reading the book. You can read it from beginning to end. You can read the first chapter, stop, and do the Dear Diary questions. Or there's actually a PDF that you can get within the book itself where it'll give you all of the questions. And it's kind of a introductory roadmap to figuring out who you are, where you've come from, where you are now, and then where are you going? Because it's not just all about the therapies and uncovering and digging in and understanding and why am I like this, da da da. It's also about strategizing from falling in love with yourself today and being able to move forward into tomorrow, next week, 10 years from now, and everything in between, knowing that you've aligned where you are. And so those questions, they'll prompt you. You'll go through some, chaos of, I don't know, me running around Rome and having a great vacation time with my girlfriends. And the questions at the end of the chapter are, have you ever had a dream that you've given up on? Is there ever anything that you've decided to do that you actually went balls to the wall and said, nothing's going to stop me. I'm totally going for it. And you put every piece of energy into it to make it happen. And if you gave up on it, why? What stopped you? So it's those little prompting questions that will infiltrate and get to the point of you being able to say, gosh, I recognize myself in some of these characters. I recognize myself in that story. That kind of happened to me. I dated an asshole like that once. Or I just learned how to talk to my parents better. This is kind of cool. Those types of different things.
I love that. It's like a workbook within a book.
It is. It is a workbook. And again, because this is my first publication, there is going to be a workbook coming out. I am doing a workshop towards the end of the year, and I am creating a workbook that has the actual questions, not all of them, but most of the questions involved. And it's, again, the chicken or the egg. This is just adding to my coaching, all my coaching tools that I have, because I mean, there's a million stories that didn't make it in here, but the amount of tools that we have that we can uncover and learn how to share with others, that's what makes us great coaches. That's what makes working with healers and working with empaths and working with people that have actually gone through some of it. We've been collecting tools our whole lives, and the book is now just another tool for it.
That's exactly what I say to my clients is how can you turn around and look back at your PhD in life and take everything you've learned along the way, use it to shine your light on the next person coming behind you. And that's exactly what you've done. And you're shining your light on so many people in all the most beautiful colors. Let's talk about how can people get in touch with you, first of all?
The best and easiest way would be through my website because that's where all the Instagram, Facebook, that's all the information is. And it is pretty straightforward. It is amandagreaves.com. My email is in there, amanda@amandagreaves.com. And it is Amanda, Greaves. And that's the best way because, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and it's there's a million different ways to find people these days, but just look me up by name and you'll find me.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
You'll find her because you're supposed to find her.
That I Pascal, I couldn't agree with you more when you say that statement. And this is another tidbit I want to add in. During the process of writing my book, and even a few years prior, I had started on my own spiritual healing journey. I realized that there were many things I needed to decrease or eliminate. I didn't know what I was going to bring in their place. I just knew that I needed to decrease and or eliminate. And it was amazing to me once I actually started to create space within my time, within my thought processes, within the people that I was hanging out with, knowing that I was doing something for the betterment of my own soul and the betterment of who when you do the work and you do it repeatedly and you do it consistently, the right people start to gravitate towards you. I mean, I just got chills saying that because just in the last 6 months to a year, I have had some spectacular and beautiful people enter into my life that have done nothing but add positive energy and support and encouragement. And it's so easy for me to be able to offer it back to them at the same time because there's this unspoken synergy when you do the work that we end up vibrating at a different level and we start attracting different people in a different aspect that it doesn't have to be so freaking hard.
It doesn't, if it's so freaking hard, then you're not in alignment.
And we block ourselves from so
Yes.
many things when it's so freaking hard. I mean, one of the things that I learned how to do, which was so out of character, was take my foot off the gas. And eventually I just let go of the steering wheel. I mean, entrepreneurial mindset, business owner. I work with men in construction, all the things. I am go, 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 in control, all the things. And when I started taking my foot off the gas and letting go, it was amazing how much more calm and productive I was. I wasn't pushing so hard, and the natural flow of what needed to happen had the ability to happen because I wasn't pushing it.
Yeah. And all of that takes me back to what you talked about earlier is when you were writing the book and you were driving up and down 128 and you were crying and you were releasing all of that emotion that you've been holding on to for so long. It's when we're able to create that space. We release the emotion, we release the behavior, we release the mindset, whatever the thing is. When you release it, that energy, the space that that energy was taking up is now free.
Yeah.
And one of the laws of nature is that nature abhors a vacuum.
Yep.
And so when that space is free, something else is going to fill it up.
Yeah.
So if you're in a space of allowing, then whatever the thing is that fills that space is going to be in resonance with you.
Yeah. It's crazy. And it's crazy. And I learned the very hard way that when I allow myself to release certain things, if I don't protect myself, if I don't create the right kinds of boundaries, the shit can still come back in. That vacuum isn't discerning between the good, the bad, or or the indifferent. And that happened to me. I had some massive clearing back out in 2018 and 2019. And because I felt so certain and so aligned but I didn't have the strategy to move forward. That narcissist came in and just
Hold the
dug in,
space.
filled the space. It's I know now, but at that point in time, it was amazing to me. I'm like, how is this even happening? But that, yeah, when you let go, it's learning how to allow the space, the freedom and the flexibility that it actually needs to survive, but also protecting yourself enough to understand, okay, how does this feel? And I mean, boundaries, Christ, I didn't even know what boundaries meant 5 years ago. But now it's like, oh, that doesn't have to be such a scary word. It's totally okay. This doesn't feel good. Okay, nope. That's it.
The reality is that boundaries are for us,
Yeah.
not for the other person. And so why do you buy that pair of shoes? Because it feels good on your foot and you
Yeah.
like how it makes you look and whatever. Why do you buy that top? Because I feel good in it. I like how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And
It took me years to understand what that meant.
yeah,
Years.
yeah,
Which is crazy, because I think about what's going on now, but it took me years to understand what that statement meant. What do you mean I can have my own space?
it
Eh,
sounds crazy and it's not because
Yeah.
our brains are just little recording devices. And
Mhm.
so we go through life and we record every single thing. And our brains believe everything it hears and it believes everything we think.
Yeah. Change your thoughts,
So,
change your life. Yeah.
yeah. So when you think of it that way, it's not so crazy that you didn't understand or have firm boundaries
Right.
because
Right.
that wasn't what was recorded previously.
Well, not only that, I mean, if I had had firm boundaries, this never would have happened. I wouldn't
See?
have ended up with a pretty cool book. And again, I am entering into a stage of my life now that I can feel, I can see, I am loving it. And it's just now I'm stacking in a positive direction, and it feels great. And I was with a friend of mine. We went to a breathwork ceremony over this past weekend, and it was liberating to say the very least. But I we were having a great conversation, and it's like when you're going through a certain transition in your life, you're like, "Oh, I don't know when I'm going to be there. I don't know when I'm going to make it. Like when is this all going to be over and how am I going to land?" And she just blatantly looked right at me. She said, "Amanda, you're already doing it. You've been doing it for years. It's just accepting it. Accepting that this is where your soul's journey is intentionally taking you because now you've taken your foot off the gas, you've let go of the steering wheel, and that bigger plan that is happening all around us is actually starting to work." And I was like, "Thank you so much."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's so beautifully said.
we're all doing great. Every single one of us. We're all doing the best we can today. And if we don't feel that way, there are people, places, things, there's tools out there to help shift it. And I'm very, very thankful for the first coach I had back in 2012 because from that point on, everything's been shifting and I'm now where I am, which is so
Yeah.
awesome.
You've had so many new normals.
My God, yeah. Gosh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you'll have so many more.
Yeah, we all will. I mean, if you think of it
Yep.
this way, right? We've got 365 days in the year. If you make a 1-degree shift, just a simple 1-degree shift every single day, you will turn yourself completely around in 1 year.
Yep.
Com-
That's a really great visual. Yeah. So good.
yeah, just
So
one
good.
thing. Yeah.
So, as we're wrapping up here, I don't want to end the conversation, but alas, we must. Do you have anything that you'd like to offer listeners?
Absolutely. Yes. As a coach and as somebody that I do sincerely want to be able to serve and help and allow others to find the space to uncover what their vulnerable space is and find the strength within that. I do discovery sessions with potential clients and with people in general. A discovery session. If you're interested, if you could just email me, amanda@amandagreaves.com, and tell me that you heard my name and that you were listening to this podcast, and we'll set up a discovery session. And it is, a handful of questions and then just a safe, honest, one-to-one conversation about where are you and where do you want to go? And is there anything I can do to help you?
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for being here. This was such an amazing conversation. Your website and your email are in show notes, so everybody can just click and find you very easily. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of your book because I still don't have it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to digging in and doing all the things
Yeah.
because can I just go back and say that the brain blip that I had at the very beginning was every coach has always been a coach. They just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Right. I wrote that down as we were talking because I'm
Yep.
like, I'll forget it again. And B, I have no idea what the other B was going to be.
That's
I
okay.
just had another brain blip. I'll think of it later.
Well, I'll give you one more element. For those of us that prefer to listen to their books as opposed to reading their books, I'm currently recording my Audible version, and my goal is to have it out by, I say, the end of August 2024, if not early to mid September 2024, the Audible version of the Chameleon Diaries. In this voice, written and directed and read by Amanda Greaves, is going to be available for you. So if you don't like the page turning, then I can certainly entertain you in the car.
Fantastic. And I love that you are the one recording your words.
It's fun. I was singing last night, so there's a singing aspect, and I don't sing. I don't claim to be, but there is. I did belt a couple out, so we'll see what happens in the editing process.
We'll see if the editor thinks you sing or not.
He might not like it so much. We'll see.
Thank you for being here. Always a joy. And let's please stay in touch.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really do appreciate it.
Couldn't we all use more of Amanda's magic? The power of spiritual healing, setting healthy boundaries, and the importance of releasing old emotions to make space for positivity. Remember that change happens 1 degree at a time, and vulnerability is a strength. So lean into the parts of you that feel the most vulnerable and see what opens up for you in your life. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Good night. Thank you for being in our Women Finding Clarity community. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite listening platform and share it with someone you know so they can find clarity from the conversation as well. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. See you next week.